Hello, I am very big into the future. I'm a futurist, if you will. And every Tuesday we talk about interesting things that's happening in Web3 gaming. We talk about VR, AR. We talk about all the R's with all the different vowels and consonants and the go before the R. And this is from ThrillSeeker, who says this is the holy grail of VR headsets. Okay.
Star VR. It's 5K, 210-degree view and angle. This is total immersion. And you know what? Complete.
That looks so big. That looks so big. That's how much does this weigh? How much does this weigh?
Hello and welcome to Virtually Odd, the series where we take a look at the weird past, odd presents, and unknown future of reality-bending technology. From smell-o-vision to immersion rigs, there's always been a lot of crazy VR tech. But today, we're taking a look at this, the elusive Star VR1.
Okay, first off, this looks way... Hold on.
We're taking a look at this. The
first thing I see when I see this is like, how much does this thing weigh? Like, I just need to know, like, right now, looking at this thing, I absolutely need to know what this weighs. Like, I feel like I'm going to have some type of, like, breakage on the back of my neck just looking at this thing, for God's sake.
The elusive Star VR1. Packed with all the features that people have been asking for years, it's kind of the VR enthusiast dream. And even though I've tried dozens of VR headsets from cheap to ridiculous $11,000 beasts, this has been the one headset that I've always wanted to try. The problem is that it's nearly impossible to get one. The Star VR website is up and running, but there's no way to actually order one. And buying one secondhand is also impossible because, well, nobody's selling them. And even if you have the money, it's almost like this thing just ceased to exist one day, which is really weird because there was a massive hype train for years. Reviewers have praised it endlessly. It was at trade shows. It's pretty well documented. And we'll get to the story of what happened. But first, let's just talk about why this thing was so hyped and sought after.
I'm guessing field of view. I mean, look at it when it's turned this way. Hold on one second. Let me get a nice shot here because like when it's turned,
have praised it endlessly. It was at trade shows. It's pretty well documented. And we'll get
your eyes are literally in a hotel. Oh, it's polka time. Thank you, Defcon.
Du hast mich gefragt. Du hast mich gefragt. Du hast mich gefragt. Und ich hab nicht gesagt.
Thank you so much, Defcon. You gotta stop for the polka. You gotta stop for the polka. That's a rule here on the channel.
Get to the story of what happened, but first, let's just talk about why this thing was so hyped and sought after. The Star VR1's big feature that sets it apart from almost every other VR headset is its massive field of view. Advertised at 210 degrees, it nearly completely fills the human eye vision range. And when you put on this headset, almost every corner of your eyes are filled with the virtual, something I've never really felt before. And the different experience in headset while using this FOV is pretty insane. It feels like a different era of technology. But the field of view itself isn't even necessarily why people praise the Star VR. Other companies like Pimax also make wide field of view VR headsets. The difference is that the Star VR1 does it with almost zero distortion from edge to edge.
Dude, that looks crazy cool, man. Like, I feel like I'm stepping into some magical portal just looking at this right now. It's insane what I'm seeing right there. Like, dudes, it might be worth it. If this thing was like 100 pounds, I might even just be like, F it, I'm gonna try it out. You know what I mean? Like, it looks so amazing. It looks like I'm stepping into it with my eyeballs. Like, oh, a whole new world. Like,
wraps around you without any fisheye or warping effect. It's something that has never really been done before for less than $10,000. But there's one other big difference between this and every other wide FOV headset out there: the weight and size. The Star VR1 without the cable weighs just 450 grams, and it's almost the same size as a Valve Index, which is pretty darn small and light at less than half the weight of a Pimax Crystal and Index. Plus, it's got built-in Tobii eye tracking that's used for all sorts of of things.
What is 450 grams in terms of poundage here? I'm a dumb American. Let me type. 450 grams is 0.99 pounds. It's 1 pound. Okay. All right. I can handle that. Look at you. Very smart with the maths. I like that, G.
Automatically adjusting IPD, Steam VR tracking, and it's rocking a set of custom AMOLED displays. So the contrast ratios are just significantly better than any LCD panel out there. Black is black, and bright scenes are, well, bright. Everything pops. And I'm sure you can see exactly why I've been wanting to get my hands on one of these for so long. That list of features sounds amazing, and the experience of using it is nothing short of ridiculous. It's the first time I've seen a distortionless, massive field of view matched with a headset that's lightweight enough to actually use normally. And being able to see things in my peripheral vision just increases the immersion of everything in a very subliminal way. It's not so much the things you really notice, it's more so the overall experience of feeling like you're in the world, not so much looking into it. And it's maybe even a little overwhelming going from a 100-degree field of view headset to this. I'm just getting so much more visual information from everything around me. And I found myself jumping pretty often when I saw things in my peripheral because I'm just not used to anything being there. Like, the best way I could explain this is to have you try it for yourself. Just cup your hands around your eyes to cut off half of your real field of view, and you realize pretty quickly just how much of the world you're missing that way. VR is no different. But of course, that's not the whole story, and this is where things start taking a turn for the weird. As good as that all just sounded, it's certainly not perfect. A couple of things on this headset are definitely outdated by 2023. I mean, to even get it to work, I had to use a version of Steam VR that's meant to be compatible with Windows 7, and even then, not every game is working properly. But the really noticeable issue here is just the resolution of the headset. And I realize now just how spoiled I am by high resolution devices like the Beyond, because with the Star VR1, I feel like I'm taking a step back to 2016 and the original Rift clarity-wise. Its resolution of 1830 by 1464 per eye may sound good enough, but you have to remember that this resolution is being spread across 200 plus degrees field of view. Most headsets have a much smaller FOV and have just a smaller area to spread their pixels across. Like the Valve Index, for example, has a lower resolution than this, but it still looks way sharper, which is a shame, because the only thing that is stopping me from using this headset every day as my daily driver, besides the software deprecation, of course, is the fact that it's just pretty blurry. Cable is also very chunky. I mean, it requires 2 DisplayPort cables to function.
Hey, but wasn't he saying price point was like 10 grand on this, or did I mishear that? Because like if that's the price, well, first off, wow, that's fucking ridiculous. I can't even imagine myself with the Apple Pro at like 3,500. You know, like I don't know. Maybe I heard, did he say 3,200? Thanks, Hugh. I heard like 10 grand in there somewhere. So if he said 3,200, but like if you're going to spread that field of view out like that, right? Like, so what he's saying is it's a hell of a lot more grainy. And if you want it to have better resolution, then you need like serious amounts of processing power, like Aether said. And, you know, I don't know, man. Even if they're selling this thing above 3,000, you'd imagine they'd have better resolution than what they've got right now.
One for each eye. But yeah, the resolution really holds it back, unfortunately, which is kind of funny because this headset was supposed to ship 6 years ago. And at the time, these specs were absolutely groundbreaking for VR. People didn't even know how they were going to run it. You need a monstrous PC. But here's where everything about this headset completely shifts. Not only was this just supposed to be a version 1 with a successor coming very quickly to address that resolution issue, but this ridiculous headset technically never really shipped at all. There was no chance for a V2. So what the hell happened? And well, now's the time where we finally fall into the rabbit hole. What if I were to tell you that the Star VR1 didn't start development in 2016, not in 2015, not even 2013, but its roots are actually fixed all the way back in 2011, in a time where VR was nothing. In fact, you could pretty much say that the entire world's VR enthusiasts were in one single place on the internet, a forum called MTBS 3D, the place where Oculus actually started. It's kind of the primordial soup of modern virtual reality. And on this forum, people from around the world shared their own DIY
This has a very similar thing that, you know, like the analogy can be drawn with how Star Citizen started with CryEngine and then, of course, had to have the amalgam of Lumberyard. and the engine that they were using existing to create Star Engine, and how like progressing forward with the engine sometimes can be at an understatement saying can be lagging, you know, because you're seeing a lot of stuff coming out from UE5 now, and I'm hearing a lot of developers on UE5 engine, how they're just be able to pump out assets like crazy. While, you know, if I feel like, and of course this is going to happen with Star Citizen, they're never switching engines. That would be crazy and ridiculous if they did. But UE5 is able to pump out faster, period. From what I'm seeing from the devs, not my own personal experience, but from me talking with different developers from other companies, they're saying relatively easy and quick production with UE5. And so like, this is a great analogy going from this headset, basically starting off earlier than any of the other ones, and then having as time goes forward to kind of backward upgrade it, you know?
VR projects traded hardware and tested things together, because at the time, there was no VR industry. It didn't exist. That is, until August 1st, 2012. The Oculus Kickstarter had just launched, and this single event would take virtual reality as a whole, from a group of hobbyists on a forum to a worldwide interest. VR was back. And the story of Oculus tells itself after that. That's a video for another time. But from that same exact forum where Oculus got its start, there was a VR headset with a totally different goal and mindset, the Infiniti. This is Lionel Anton. He's a tinkerer. As he told me, he is fascinated with big screens. And that fascination in 2011 led him to build the biggest screen possible, a wide field of view VR headset. And after a few years of prototyping and trying things out, Lionel was ready to take his projects to the next level. And actually, exactly a year after the Oculus Kickstarter, Lionel goes public on the MTBS 3D forums with his open source 210-degree field of view VR headset. Sound familiar? The Infiniti. This is obviously pretty groundbreaking for the time, but I do want to bring up that Palmer Luckey, the Oculus founder, did actually make a 270-degree FOV VR prototype before this, but the conclusion of that test was that the rendering, cost, size, technology, everything about it was just prohibitively out of reach. It would be better to focus on smaller fields of view. Lionel and Infiniti, on the other hand, said that they can do it. They're up for the challenge. And the forums go pretty crazy. Obviously, everyone wonders if they're going to start a Kickstarter just as Oculus did. It worked for them. But Lionel has a very different plan. See, Kickstarter was actually unavailable in France at the time. So instead, he entered a technology competition held by Samsung, with a winning prize of 100,000 euros to continue development. And to put it simply...
Oh, this is based in France? Sorry guys. I'm just saying, if anything I can draw conclusions with is the automobile industry, you know? Like, like if I'm thinking about the industry itself from France that I see, or the technology, you can just look at the automobile industry and start to laugh, man.
They did not win this competition, as it was Samsung's final decision, not the public vote. But none of that mattered, because by the end of 2013, Infiniti just goes dark. Other high FOV projects do start popping up around this time, but every single one runs into the same problem that Infiniti and Palmer had. It's just really hard to get games to run correctly at this sort of field of view. Video cards, Windows, and game engines especially just weren't really built for it. So wouldn't it be just great if a giant game studio could come in and help? Every once in a while, a game releases and just blows up in popularity, propelling that studio and IP to incredible heights.
I love French women.
In 2013, Swedish studio Starbreeze had their own breakout success,
and French
with
fries.
Payday
Wait, they're not
2,
from France,
bringing in
French fries
significant funding.
Okay,
and
but I
of
still love
course,
French
they went
women.
on a spending spree after that. In early 2015, acquiring the Valhalla game engine, with plans to turn it into the main proprietary engine
And
used
French
by the
kissing.
company,
I
but
love
more
French kissing.
specifically, they wanted to turn Valhalla into the best VR game engine out there, which would be very useful because later that year, Starbreeze makes another big purchase, a company you might recognize, Infiniti. And in one swift move, Infiniti dies and is reborn.
Star VR. It's a VR helmet for overkill gamers. Total immersion. Holy fuck bananas! Complete fucking.
Holy fuck bananas. Wait a second. That's
I'm in a fountain.
How did I not come up with that one, man? How did I not come up with that one? You got to credit this man for going banana fountain-esque, man. Holy fuck, bananas. I think they did. I think they did, E-Rad. I think they did.
It's overkill. Let's roll.
In new hands, the Star VR prototype with better funding and a game studio behind it to help with the biggest problems this sort of headset would face, E3 2015 absolutely blew people's minds with quad displays, 5K total resolution. They even had a Walking Dead VR demo. And yeah, The Walking Dead. For some reason, that franchise and VR are tied even deeper than you can possibly imagine. But most importantly, this is where the Star VR hype starts. A partnership is formed between Starbreeze, Acer, and Star VR, with Starbreeze and Acer going 50-50 on Star VR's ventures. And here's where things start moving fast. IMAX hops on board with a massive fund to bring Star VR to theaters worldwide. VR Arcade start investing. There's tons of great press. 2016 was a good year, or at least it would appear that way. Because in late 2017, the first warning signs begin to appear. Acer makes a move to take majority control of Star VR with a $5 million injection. Now, instead of the 50-50 split with Starbreeze, they own 66%, which means
this is where things get, see, if you're trying to create something, you got to be careful with that venture capitalist cash, man. It's like the very thing that can kind of kill something is having too many investors. It takes away from the original vision. It takes away from the person making it or whatever the product is that the person's making. And it inserts a whole bunch of opinions from people that don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then because they own a chunk and because they've got money invested, those people have to be listened to, unfortunately, that know nothing about the industry. And then things get completely screwed up. So if you're out there and you're an entrepreneur, you better be careful. If you're a creator, you got to be careful about that venture capitalist money. That is a lesson to be learned here. I can already smell what road we're going down.
Means they get to decide everything. And this wasn't necessarily because Acer really wanted to do something with Star VR. It was because Starbreeze was in the middle of collapsing. That Valhalla game engine they bought turned out to be a total dud. They spent 2 years trying to get it to work, and the result was that they had nothing to show for it, and they lost tens of thousands of hours of work, millions of dollars, and the only real choice they had was to frantically move to Unreal Engine, something they should have done 3 years ago. But it was kind of too late. By this time, a perfect storm was brewing, and in 2018, shit hit the fan.
Man, this is making me think about Star Citizen. You know, I know this is Tech Tuesday and we're talking VR, but like all this shit's making me think about Star Engine and UE5, and you know, it's just like a very familiar kind of flavor.
Almost exactly 5 years after Infinity made its first announcement on a forum, Star VR finally announces its headset. And this is the Star VR1. Finally, the headset people have been waiting for, and it immediately gets critical acclaim from everyone that tries it. It seems it was worth the wait. And at the same time, Pimax, Star VR's only real FOV competitor, still hasn't shipped after their own Kickstarter. And given reviews at the time, Star VR was just a significantly more complete product at the time. It was the best VR headset you could buy. And keep in mind, this is before Quest, before Index. It was just a different time. And people were really excited. This was going to be a product sold to everyone, enthusiasts, businesses, prosumers. There was even an XT version that had more capabilities. But just a couple months after its announcement, out of nowhere, Star VR is delisted from the Taipei Stock Exchange, following Acer stating it may disband or even sell the company, which may seem out of nowhere, but it turns out Starbreeze was in way worse trouble by late 2018 than anybody had thought. Their Walking Dead title they've been working on completely flopped. After delays, an engine swap, and after pushing the entire company to work 100-hour weeks for a year, the CEO was fired, Starbreeze stock plummeted, and the company filed for reconstruction. It was bad. And to show you how bad it was, the office was even raided by Swedish authorities for possible insider trading. Starbreeze was complete toast. So, Star VR, once again, goes completely dark. just weeks after finally announcing their headset they've been working on for years, is delisted from the stock exchange and in total limbo. And they made one final announcement around this time that they were halting all projects and were converting to a private company. It would be almost 2 years before anything came out of Star VR. And turns out though
they had to handle all the corpo issues. They had to get through all the red tape and the money invested. They had to straighten it out and start up basically a new business to get out of their obligations to the venture capitalists, man. You know, like that's insane, dude. That's just a really good lesson. That's just a really good lesson to learn.
Those 2 years were some of the biggest VR ever had. The Quest, and Index, and Rift S launched. The Pimax 8K was delayed again, but noticeably, there's a missing slot of the Star VR for this whole time period. Most people thought it was just dead. But in 2020, the company breaks the silence out of nowhere and announces it has started shipping Star VR1s. However, everything's twisted and distorted. The headset still costs $3,200 2 years later, and they will only sell directly to businesses. Like, you had to apply to get one. And this was not the policy before. It was supposed to be a high-end headset for everyone, but that changed. And now it was pretty much for no one. And the outdated specs, mainly resolution, were amazing in 2018, but below average 2 years later. It was honestly too late. It was too expensive, too niche, and even if you wanted one, they wouldn't sell it to you. And it was around this time that Lionel and his co-founder, the brains behind Star VR, left Acer. There was supposed to be a V2 and a V3, a much more ambitious refresh, but it never happened. And within a few months, Acer drops another bomb. They were done with the Star VR. The pandemic had put a damper on their plans for location-based VR experiences.
We got a problem in chat. What's going on? Is Chrono NDA or redacted? He shouldn't be. What happened? Did my bot DG360 timed out Chrono for 600 seconds? Did he say something bad? Did the filter pick it up? He probably said something bad. Chrono, if you're there, dude, you'll be back soon. Don't get upset, man. Don't get upset. He probably said something that the filter picked up and then the bot kicked him.
Arcades shut down, IMAX VR also shut down, and the business-oriented approach wasn't paying off either. It was just too expensive, too niche, and not targeted towards the right demographic. Since then, the Star VR website is still live, but it doesn't really do anything. It's just a husk. And today, the Star VR1 remains as elusive as ever. A ghost of a dream that was once the pinnacle of VR technology. It's the headset that could have, should have been a game changer. But in the end, it was reduced to a mere collector's item, a rare relic of a time when VR was on the verge of exploding. And
we've got a situation to chat here. We got to acknowledge that Chrono has a 10-minute timeout from the bot for saying something probably inappropriate. Good job, bot. Way to work.
Well, I certainly didn't expect Payday 2, Acer, Palmer Luckey, and MTBS 3D to be part of this whole story. At the end of the day, this thing right here is still a pretty amazing VR headset. And I gotta say, it did not disappoint me after all this time of wanting to try one. But I think what the Star VR1 really is it's a tragic reminder of what could have been. It's a sad, twisted tale of vision and innovation being defeated by weird corporate politics, financial struggles, and bad timing.
Here's what it is. Bad business decisions by this
being
guy.
Defeated by weird corporate politics, financial struggles, and
this is what I worry about. This is what I worry about with Cloud Imperium and Chris, but so far so good. You know, like in terms of their financials, they're bringing in more revenue than they ever had before. But I just worry about bad business decisions from the leadership. That's what I worry about primarily. And this guy really made bad business decisions. And that's why we're having this video right now, watching this thing, because leadership and the decisions that they make are so vitally important for a dream to come true.
And bad timing, and in my opinion, a complete lack of trust in enthusiasts and the consumer side of VR. I mean, take it from experience, VR people are crazy. They will buy expensive headsets if they're the best, but Acer didn't believe that. But I also have to wonder, going all the way back to 2013 when Infinite Eye was often known as the best competitor to the original Oculus, what if they had done a Kickstarter just like Oculus. Everything just might have been different. We might all be walking around with 210-degree infinite.
Which is why it's so vitally important not to get that venture capitalist money, not to go public, not to take that shareholder money, not to get involved that way, and why the gaming industry and the tech industry is starting to take money directly from the fans and the people that want to use the products. And I think that's the way to go. The only downside to that is then the time when this is going to be released. So the variable that's the most concerning with the new model that I think everybody's just going to switch to, frankly, I think a lot of people are just going to crowdfund everything because they don't have restrictions placed on them by shareholders or anybody else. So I think you're just going to see this continuation of the industry evolving in the crowdfunding period to get everything that they need with capital and to take care of their expenses. So as we move into this new way of funding products, funding games, it's good for developers because they hold their initial vision. It can be bad for the end user because they're waiting forever. So those are your positives and those are your negatives.
i3s for all I know. But that's, of course, just a what if. We don't know any of that. The only thing I do know is that the Star VR1 still deserves its legendary status as the holy grail of VR hardware. Not so much as a success or as a perfect piece of hardware, but as a symbol of what we want but can't have. And it's ingrained in the history of VR just as much as Palmer Luckey and Oculus is, and it should go down in VR history for that reason. We will never know what could have been, but we at least know what it is. And the Star VR1 and its entire past, dating back more than a decade, is truly odd. Virtually odd, that is.
What a great story, man.
This is total immersion.
The virtual reality race has just begun.
We're going to see a lot more from this Star VR headset in the near future.
Wow, what a crazy story. So they do have a finished product, but the resolution is not what it really should be for industry standards, you know. And ThrillSeeker does a wonderful job. He watches our reactions, and I've seen a lot of changes on his channel due to our constructive feedback. You can go over there if you're interested in that. Every Tuesday, we're featuring tech here on DG360, primarily ThrillSeeker and FIA videos, the virtual reality show. Two really good shows that I really am a fan of, and we'll have them here every Tuesday on DG360. If you're a fan, go check out the new playlist, all the variety on the channel. We're literally creating like regular content where we're watching our favorite channels, and we're having them scheduled weekly. So you definitely want to watch that. You definitely want to look on DG360 for that. And let's get to the next video.